So we should be doing that. Oh my God, that's not good. I have speakers on over here, and that's not good. Hang on a second, folks. Oh, I moved my thing. Sorry about that. But that was going to be really distracting. That was, for some reason, my Bluetooth stereo speakers just started picking up all the audio they never used to until I actually directed them to, but it got a mind of its own, and it's like, that would have been an echo nightmare for everybody. So sorry, I had to take care of that right away, and I didn't know it was doing that until I actually went live. So my apologies. How's everybody doing today? Wednesday, what is today? The 12th of May. Good gracious, May 12th already. That is unbelievable. And my name is Jeff. Welcome to my shop. If this is your first time, welcome, welcome. Basically, yeah, I just sit around and do stuff in my shop, invite you in for a little while. You can just kind of hang out, watch me do the things that I do. If you'll pardon my housekeeping for a moment, everybody who watches normally knows that I go through this little dance every single time where I have to start my windows, and but this allows me to interact with you all. So if you do want to pop into a chat window and say hi or ask a question or anything else, I have chat windows up on all of my live streaming platforms, which are Facebook and YouTube and Twitch. So thank you. Oh, and I have to always mute them so that I don't, you don't have to hear me twice. Once is enough, trust me. Once is enough to hear me. Let me pull up all the windows here. I just have to get everybody kind of loaded up here, and I was running a tad behind today. I had a couple of little things to do before we got on camera, and good grief. All right, I need to mute this guy right here because nobody wants to hear you. Shh, except, well, maybe you would want to hear me, but you don't want to hear me twice, like I said. But what I did do was I load up all of my my windows there for Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, and then I can see the comment pages there. And that way, if you do have a comment, wow, like, hey Jeff, why are your glasses so dirty? How can you even see out of those? So if you do have a comment, please throw it up on the chat window, and I will address it as soon as I possibly can. I will be working in the workshop this morning, so I try to check the comments periodically. So I may not be timely in my responses to you, but I will try to be. Like I said, I try to get it periodically, check in just to make sure. And anyway, if you're there and want to say hi, I would be happy to see you. Well, it ain't perfect, but it's better. And at least I can sort of see now. So let's talk about what I did yesterday when I wasn't live streaming. And then we can get into what I'm going to do today. And I've got a little show and tell for you too, which is kind of fun. So yesterday I spent the day, well, let's go back to Monday. I had all of these boards. There's a ton of boards over here, like stacks and stacks of wood, that I had been milling to the appropriate thickness, which is about like this, 3/4 of an inch. So I've been milling these to the appropriate thickness, which means that it's basically a 3-part process, which involves the jointer, the table saw, and the planer, which are all over there, which is why I'm kind of pointing that way. Anyway, the table saw right here. The process being that I have rough cut lumber. I buy my lumber rough cut, which means it basically comes from the sawmill to my lumber distributor. It's dried, stacked up, and then I go buy it right off a shelf. It is not a big box experience. You have to know what you're looking for, and all the wood is rough sawn, so it is not milled nice and smooth and pretty and flat. I mean, it's sort of, but not not to the point where you're going to use it for any project. So I bring it back to my shop. I usually let it sit for, sometimes I let it sit for a month or so to acclimatize to my shop and where I am, as opposed to where it came from, because wood will move as it dries or gets moisture or whatever. So I like to have it acclimatized in my shop. So I don't use it right away. Like if I go to the lumber store, I'm looking 2 or 3 months down the road for what I'm going to use that wood for. I don't necessarily just go there to buy the wood to use. I have, but I get better results when it just hangs out in the shop for a while. And most of this wood has just been hanging out in the shop for maybe close to 6 months, some of it. Anyway, so I start by joining it flat on one face. Well, take that back. Most of these boards were wide, so I had to cut them down narrow enough to go through the joiner. My joiner is only 6 inches, so I cut these a little wider than 3 inches because my final width will be about 3 inches. So I cut them a little wider than 3 inches. Then I did a flat face on the joiner. I'm just going to use this little guy right here. Flat face on the joiner, get one flat face, and then I do one edge like this. And that gives me a nice square 90-degree angle right here. Now, I could do one of two things. I could take this flat piece right here with a nice angle. I could put that on the table saw and cut it to the final width dimension. These two, you can do these two at any point in time. Or you can do what I did, which is take them to the planer and run them through the planer. Now the planer, so the joiner cuts the bottom and you just run the board across and it gives you one flat face because it has an infeed and an outfeed table and it references that table as it's running across. You can't just flip the board over and flatten the other side because it's not referencing off of, it'll give you a flat side, but it won't necessarily be parallel to this side. So in order to do that, we use a planer. So the planer has a table that this runs across. That's the reference. Then the planer cuts on the top surface so that when it's done, you have parallel flat sides with one square edge. Once that's done, you take it to the table saw and you cut it to width, you get your boards. The final step is to cut those boards to the length that you need for the project you're doing. That's where we're at today. So I'm going to take all of this stuff that I've kind of marked out, and what I did was I kind of took rough estimates of how much board length I need for these projects. I'm making sewing machine bases. I'll show you what that is in a second if you're not familiar. Anyway, basically imagine a box. So I'm making long, skinny boxes, okay? Kind of like shoebox size kind of things, right? So I need to figure out, well, how long for the front and back, and then how long for the sides, and then mine have compartments. A lot of these have compartments, so I need a middle spacer too. So I had to figure out how much exact lumber do I need for all of those things. And like I have a little diagram up on my wall that tells me the dimensions of the boards when I'm cutting them and such. So I use that as a rough guide to figure out how much yield I can get from each board. And some of the boards might yield 3 of the side pieces, which are just a hair over 8 inches long. So I need roughly about 24 5/8 inches of board. And so I need to figure out, okay, well, how much can I get out of there? Well, the long pieces, the front and back pieces are 21 inches. So I need to figure out, okay, well, if I'm going to get 2 of those, I need to do 42 inches plus a kerf, which is an eighth. So 42 5/8 inches of, or 42 1/8 inches of board length. And not only that, but I had to figure out, okay, what's the prettiest face of the board? I want to look for the prettiest grain pattern to use for the front and the back. So I take all of that into account while I'm looking at these boards to say, okay, ooh, that'd make a really pretty face. Okay, I need that piece to be 21 inches long. Is there another piece next to it that would look good? Or maybe those will be sides, or you get the idea. So I go through and I find out what all my dimensions are going to be and what my yield will be out of these boards, and I try to minimize my waste as much as possible because even wood is expensive, but even more so these days. It's kind of like gas right now. There's a perceived shortage, even though there's not a shortage, people. There's no gas shortage. There's not. And yet people are lined up at the pumps. Anyway, there's no wood shortage, but prices go up because, well, there's a little bit of a wood shortage, but not really. Every time I go down to my lumber guy, he's got wood. So not really a shortage. Prices are higher. Maybe there's a shortage of buyers because the prices are higher. But yeah, I saw people at the pumps yesterday and I'm like, really? And my son was really irked. A little story. So my son came home from work. He had to stop to get gas because he was almost out of gas. So he's like, I got to stop and get gas. He's like, I might be a little late. It's kind of busy here. So he said he waited in line. He said it was really ridiculous because people were just going in. They'd hop out and start to do the gas. They'd be like there for like 30 seconds to a minute, and then they'd be done. So basically, they weren't empty or near empty or whatever. They were just topping up their tank by like, a couple of 2 or 3 gallons. It was really irking him. He's like, come on, that's just stupid. He's 22. But anyway, he is right. It is stupid. People are running in thinking, oh my God, we're going to be out of gas. And we're not going to be out of gas. If I'm wrong, I apologize. But honestly, the gas is already flowing again here on the East Coast. And they've been moving it out by truck and tanker, and they've been delivering gas all over the place. So here's an idea. Make your computers safer. That's all I'm saying. All right. I'm sorry. That was such a tangent. Getting back to what I was doing yesterday, I was finishing. We started milling these on Monday, and we started with the jointer, and I did a lot of jointing and such. And then yesterday, I took them to the planer and did all the planing. So you didn't get to see me do the planing. Actually, I did that in the afternoon on Monday, and then part of it finished up on Tuesday. So I've got them all to their final width right here. These are all to the final width or thickness, I should say. They're to their final thickness. They're not to their final width. They're close to their final width, but like this board is, this one's close. It's like 3 1/16. So this one's pretty close. Some of these are much wider. Some of them are not as wide. So I think this one probably looks a little wider. Yeah, so this one's like 3 1/4 inches right here. This is sapele, which is a beautiful wood. It's kind of mahogany family. But yeah, so I got them to their thickness, and now what I'm going to do is cut them to the lengths that I need and to the final width, which is like 3 inches. My bases can be a little thinner than 3. They don't have to be exactly 3 inches. They can be a little thinner, but all the boards for the base need to be the same width, and 3 inches is what I shoot for. It gives me more than enough depth in the box to accommodate for the sewing machine that sits on top and room to spare. So some of these I've already done, like this right here. Let me set this out of the way for a minute. So this has been done. This is what we're going to be doing. I had some longer cherry boards, and I went ahead and milled these up. So this is a piece right here that is 21 inches long, and this will be probably the face. This has got some really pretty grain going on in here. It's kind of nice and flowy. This is cherry. And then I've got another piece right here, which is not quite as pretty. It's more straight grain, but it's still cherry, and it's nice and long. So these two I cut to 21 inches. Now they're not the same width. I will have to go to the table saw and make these the proper width once we're done. But then I also took and cut my side panels. So I've got 1, 2, 3 side panels right here. These also need to be trimmed down to their proper width, but they are the proper length. They are 8 1/8 inches long, and they are 3/4 inches wide. And I have one panel that will be for the middle. This one's a little shorter, but that's okay because the middle divider panel is short. It's not as like if these are 3 inches, it might be 2 3/4 inches because it rests on top of the bottom of the base, not all the way to the side. So that'll make sense later too. But anyway, so that's kind of what we're looking at. So I take these, I size them up. I need 2 sides, or 2 front and back right here, 2 long pieces. I need 3 short pieces. And that constitutes one base. That's all the wood minus the bottom, which is a piece of plywood. But minus the bottom, that's one base. And then there's another one right here. So I had a couple of pieces of long cherry that I wanted to go ahead and get cut up to make sure that I didn't need to mill any more to make some complete bases. I have some other wood, like I could have cut this down into a 3-inch-ish strip and then milled it down to 3/4 of an inch and then cut an extra board or two out of this if I needed to. I will probably use this for the lids for the storage compartments. I need 2 lids. So the base actually has, it's an opening where the machine sits in, and then there's a little storage compartment. I put a flat lid on top of that. And that, I have to account for that flat lid, save some wood for that basically. So anyway, I've got all these long boards, and I'm going to take those and assess those, find out which ones would make the best face boards, the prettiest side out, and then how I'm going to cut the rest of the board up to make the little kit, if you will, all of the cut pieces that we're going to then do the joinery on and other things. So that's kind of where we're at today. What else? Oh, so also yesterday, just wanted to show this off a little bit because it's really pretty. This is one of the ones I just finished. Now, this is not what we're making right now. This is for a different type of machine, but this is for what we would call a 301. And I'm just gonna look at this in my little monitor so to make sure that you can see that. Look how pretty that is. That is a nice flamey maple, and it's all finished. It has walnut on the ends here, and has lovely little dovetail joinery. So you can see the nice dovetail joinery here. So these I just finished. So basically what I did was I finished these. I did a trace coat on them, and go back and watch my videos on trace coat. I did a shellac finish, and then I sanded that flat, and then I lacquered them. So yesterday was lacquer day, so I sprayed all these with lacquer, and now they are ready to be sold. But this is the same type of bottom that I would use. So this is a piece of plywood, 1/4 inch plywood. This is what I use for the bottom of my bases. Anyway, I just wanted to show you that. The other ones are in the house, so they're kind of curing inside. I let them sit for a few days before I actually start putting a machine in and take pictures to post them for sale. And that way the lacquer is nice and hard and cured. So I did that. Okay, so I want to address one thing that happened to me while I was milling these woods, and especially the sapele boards that I had. They had a significant curve in them. So when I went to go join them, or joint them, not join them, but joint them on my jointer, what would happen is to get them to the 3/4 inch thickness, it would have to take, as the lip goes up, it would have to cut this, you keep shaving this lip down until I got to the flat board in the middle. It would have to do it on both sides. And I have a little illustration here, and I ended up losing a significant amount of wood off the end of one of these that I couldn't use because, hang on, let me just slide some stuff here. I want to show you this. Because the curve was so significant, I got to the point where, like this one right here, you can see this little rough spot on the edge. This was not jointed. This is actually thinner than 3/4 of an inch. So it's now not a usable piece of the board. My 3/4 of an inch doesn't start till right here. So I'm going to actually lose all of this because it had to cut so much off to get it to be flat that I actually lost thickness off the board. And I actually have a demonstration of this and how I actually fix that. So maybe you can use this in the end. Let me change to this one, I think, and switch to this one right here. I think that's the one I want. So let me make sure that you're seeing what you should be seeing here. Hopefully you're seeing that one. No, not webcam. I'm sorry. Where is it? This one right here. That's what you need to see. Okay. Is that right? I think that's right. I'm just making sure here. So hang on a second. Yep. Okay. We're good. We are good. So what you're looking at is basically an illustration of a board that has a curve to it. And this happens quite a bit, especially with a long board or whatever. If it's been sitting, you know, like I said, boards, when they sit around, they can get a little warp to them. And so this one right here, if you look, this is kind of how that board is. It's exaggerated, like the thickness and such, but just to demonstrate. So hopefully you can see my little mouse cursor on here. To get to this level right here at the bottom of the curve, right here, you have to chop a lot of wood off. So in order to do that, you know, you have to lose a lot of wood. So if you look at this, if this demonstrates how much I would have to cut off to make that board flat, you can see that I'm going to have to chop a significant amount off of each corner and off the bottom or the middle section to get that to a point where it's flat. And the problem is that may not be thick enough. These boards may have started off to be pretty thick, but I might lose too much now to get it down to where it needs to be. So I did come up with a solution for this. It's not great, but it is better, because what happens is if you're joining this thing, the length of this board all the way across, that curve is pretty significant. So there you go. I lost a lot of wood. I cut that off, you lose a lot of wood. It makes it too skinny. But let's go back to our curved board. If I take that curved board and I cut it into two pieces, now that curve that went across the top, or went from one end to the other, is not nearly as significant as it was in the other ones. So now when I go to trim these off flat, I actually lose less wood. I'm not cutting as much off the top and the bottom. So here's before. You can see that's skinny and that's fatter. So we're talking a matter of like maybe 1/8 of an inch to sometimes maybe 3/16. But that could be the difference between being able to use a board and not being able to use a board if the thickness of the board is significant to your final product. Like mine, I need my boards to be 3/4 of an inch thick in order to make them to the dimensions that they need to be made. So by losing that wood, by having that board so long, I basically lost that usable wood. But because I cut them in two instead of one long board, I cut them in two and had shorter boards now, I had less that I had to joint off in order to make those flat. And that allowed me to save more of that wood. In the long run, I only shaved off a little bit off the ends, I got them flat, and my boards were significantly thicker. By significantly, I mean like 1/8 of an inch thicker. And that is the difference between having a piece of usable wood and a not usable piece of wood. So if you have a board that is long and it is curved like that, you need to joint it to get it to be flat. Think about the length of the board, and do you need that full length, or can you cut that board in half? If you cut it in half, you basically are minimizing the amount of curve from one end to the other. So that curve from one end to the other, less significant than it was, less significant there, more significant on the long board. Cut it in half. Hang on, I went the wrong way, sorry. So cut it in half, those curves are less significant. There's actually more meat left on the bone when you get ready to joint it. So that's kind of the process that I used to go through this. I'm gonna go back now. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. But I mean, I didn't come up with that concept, but I was thinking about it and I was like, man, these birds are so curvy. I did one and it really didn't work out in the way I wanted it to. And I was like, oh, this is just not good. And I was like, well, okay, but if I take it half of it, that curve isn't nearly as significant as if it goes all the way back up. So I was like, oh, well, that works. So that's kind of the solution I came up with. And hopefully that'll work for you if you come up against that one day. But I just thought I would share my little thought process with you in drawings, because I have nothing better to do than play with Photoshop and then turn it into a PDF. All right. So before my coffee gets cold, I'm going to try to drown the rest of this. And oh my gosh, Ellen DeGeneres calling it quits after 19 years for this next season. I mean, I'm not an Ellen hater or anything, but I don't watch her show. So what I want to do now is identify the boards that I need for making the bases. And like I said, part of this process is identifying the faces of the boards and the grain to see how to best utilize it. So let's start with, I'm going to get this out of the way. Let's start with this piece of sapele or sapele. I hear people pronounce it different ways. I'm not really sure which is the proper way. But this board right here is, like I said, it's sapele. It is a member of the mahogany family. I love working with this wood. It's a little finicky, but it has a very unique smell when you cut it. It almost smells like soap. It's kind of strange. But anyway, maybe like soap with cinnamon on it. It's a really weird smell, but it has a really interesting smell when you cut it. What I did do was, if you look, this was the board that has the piece that didn't get milled on the end here, and it had some significant snipe on this side. And basically what I did was I took my calipers here and I determined where my thickness gets down to a point where I can't use it anymore. So I need, like I said, it's like this right here is 0.751 inches right here. So 7.5 is what I need. But if I get down to a little bit down to this end, now I'm at 7.45. So I'm now, it's not much. It's 5/100ths of an inch. No, 5/1000ths of an inch. But it starts to get too thin. So what I did was I drew a line right here and said, nope, I can't use this board beyond. Now, hang on, let me cut this off right there. So this line right here is my point of non-use, at least for this part. I might use this, I might be able to take this and create something else out of it. I'm not gonna like throw this in the scrap bin, but it is, like I said, it is too thin for using it in the board. So I need to now assess, okay, I've got the rest of this board, which is the good thickness. So how do I want to divide this board up to get the best yield out of it for what I'm going to do? My bases are 21 inches long. This board right here, I don't know if you can, is this camera on? Yeah. So this board has a really pretty grain running through it right here. You can see this really significant grain right in here. So hopefully you can see that. It's really pretty. So this will definitely be a face. And I think this would probably be the front face of this board. And that means that I'm going to mark this out to 21 inches from my line down here where I have to cut it. So I'm going to just kind of roughly put a line there because why is there a motorcycle out in front of my house? Hang on a second. Live TV, folks. It's live. I don't see a motorcycle, but I hear a motorcycle out of my house. That's weird. Anyway, so I've got one face there that's 21 inches, and I'm going to slide this down a little bit. So if I wanted to say, well, this face is not bad either, let's use this for another face. Well, is it long enough? Because I have to have 1/8 of an inch for a kerf for my saw. So if I make a mark 1/8 of an inch in, and I look down here and whoo, it is 21 inches like on the button. So we can cut this. Now, I don't know if this edge is square either. If this edge isn't square, I'm kind of hosed right here because this needs to be square. So let's see if this is square. And it looks to be that this edge has actually been cut off square already. So we're good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this over to the saw over here. Take it over to the saw over here. So my compound miter saw. And I'm going to start cutting this up. I'm going to cut 21 inches off of this end and then 21 inches down to this end. I've got a little slop where that line was. It's not exactly at the mark, but let's see what we can get out of this one. Now I'm going slow right now. I will be going much faster once we get going. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and mark my 21-inch line on here so we can get this cut made when I walk over to the saw. And then the other thing I want to make sure is that when I put this on the saw, I think I'm going to put it this way. And I want, well, no. How do I want to do this? Okay, this is a square edge right here. This has been jointed. So I'm going to use this edge against the fence So I'm going to measure it from here. I'm going to measure exactly 21 inches, because that's what I need, is exactly 21. Make a mark here. I'm going to get my trusty little woodpecker square, and I'm going to make sure that that line is highly visible for me. So I've got the line marked. We're going to come over to the saw, and I've got this set up to start cutting, because like I said, I already did some yesterday, and I need to get this mark. Now, why is that? There we go. Find my mark and get this right here. All right, I'm going to get my ears. I'm going to change cameras so that you can see. I think I have a camera set up over here. And grab my ears. Oh, need ears. All right, so you've got my camera set up. You can see where I'm cutting over here on the saw. I do need my remote. Where did I put? There's my remote right here. So I need my remote. Turn on the dust collection. Okay, so the dust collection. I mean, it's better than not having any on at all, but man, I just knocked the fuzzies off of this a little bit. So now what I'm going to do is use this board as my measuring stick for making this cut. This is kind of the way I like to do this. I'll advance this over here. I'll take this board, and then I take the edge, and basically what I'm doing is I'm matching this edge up exactly so that when I rub my finger along here, it feels like one thick board. And your fingers are really sensitive, so you should be able to tell when these are lined up. It's easier when it's pressed up against the fence here. But I'm going to line these up so they're exactly the same width on one side. Then what I do is I just lower the saw blade down and run this into the saw blade. So I'm running this piece right here on top until it touches that saw blade. Once it touches the saw blade, I know that that's the proper cut space or the cut length. And I hold this down, move this little board over a little bit, and then make my cut. So I got to turn this on. As I said, it doesn't do a superior job, but it does do something. And you always can tell because when you don't have it on, it's ridiculously bad. All right, so here are my boards. I'm going to line up these edges right here. And you can see, hopefully, that these cut pretty equally here. Now, I'm actually off just a hair. This one is just a touch longer. Let me make sure. Yeah, okay. Okay. I'm going to make this one just a hair shorter to match this one. I don't know how I got just a hair short on that one, but the way I do that, if I'm going to just shave a little tiny bit off of this board, it's pretty simple. I lower my saw blade down. Oops. Lower the saw blade down, push the board into the blade, raise the blade up, and then cut again. That blade has teeth on it, and the teeth are wider than the actual round surface of that saw blade. So if you push this into the flat part of the blade, when you bring it up, the teeth are actually over offset just a little bit, and it'll shave just a hair off. And that's the way I like to do it. Just kind of, there we go. These are exactly now the exact same size. This end, they're exactly the same. All right, so that's the front, and basically what I want to do now is just kind of identify, and I'm going to put an F on here, because that will tell me that that F is now, I don't know if you can see that, but that F is the face. And then I will look at the rest of the board and I'll say, okay, this is fine. And I'll make a B on this one. And then that B is the back. And that lets me know my front and my back. And I know it seems silly to do that, but what it does is it just keeps everything straight in my head. If I label the pieces, just like, if you're going to use A, B, C, and D, and A goes into slot D or whatever, to me, it just keeps these things separated, and I can always identify what's my front piece and what's my back piece, so I don't get them confused, because when I start doing my joinery, it becomes very important that that front piece, it will only fit one way. So yeah. All right, next piece is 8 1/8 inches long, and I need 3 of these. So I'm going to mark this first, but 8 1/8 gives me 24 3/8, and then the kerf is going to be 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to make 2 cuts, which means I'm going to lose 2/8, right? Or 1/4 of an inch. So I need 24 5/8 total. So this board is more than long enough to accommodate that. It's like 29 inches. So I'm going to get this first one cut, and then, like I said on the last one, I'm going to use this cut as my guide to make the other cuts. And that way they will all be sized the exact same way. So let me go ahead and mark this for my first cut. Actually, you know what? I'm going to flip. Well, no. Is this board straight? Let me see if this is. I'm going to see if this is actually square right here. It is. So my flat side of my board was jointed and then squared up here. So I want this to be on the surface and then against the fence. So I'm going to actually take this drawing from this end, or this measurement from this end, 8 1/8. Because that way I can make sure that I've got this squared up against my fence as best as possible. And that will give me my cleanest, best work. Now I'm going to erase this line I made here so I don't get confused. Because I'm easily confused, I understand this. All right, let's go back over to the saw over here. My little waste board right here. Get this sized up. Okay. All right. Now I have, you can see there's a big block right there, but it's even on each side. So that gives me a whole nother set of boards now. And there's a set right there. And this is where it's kind of fun because I start visualizing like how many bases I actually have when I start like stacking up like all of the boards for use like this, and I can see how many sets I have. I think the way I've got this figured out is it should be about 8 bases worth of wood, give or take. And I need to figure out what I'm going to do for some of these. I've got a lot of sapele. I had a lot of sapele sitting in my shelf over there. So this one actually, let me see what I've got here lengthwise. I think this one was also 40. No, not 42. So I could do a short one on here. I'll come back to this one. Let me see here. Because this is where I said I got to kind of figure out what I can use for. So this one I could get one board out of here and then another, like an end piece. So I could get one one face and one end board out of here. And then just trying to assess these. I've got two longer ones here. I've got this piece right here. All of this wood right here is not usable. This was the board that I screwed up on because it was just too, I had to joint so much off of this board to get it to be the right thickness. So yeah, right there is no good. Right here is good. So I've got a mark kind of right here where I've got a lot of marks on here, but I've got a mark on here, which is my end of my usable space. Let me do it this way, just so I know. Like this is the end of my usable space right here. I can't do anything on here. Nothing with this wood as it stands. Now, I mean, like I said, I could turn it into something else, but right now this is not going to be used for a base, sides, or face board. This, on the other hand, not bad. It's thick enough. So how long is this? It's 26 inches. 21 gives me a long face. And then, let's see, 21 gives me a long face. So I can get, and that's one long face, but, oh, okay. And then I've got some others here. So I might do a short base too. Short base, 16 inches long, 16 and a quarter. That was 21. And then I can get 2 out of that. So let me see. I think I'm going to do, I think I can get 3 more bases out of this. Let's see. All right, this is square. This is my good side. I'm going to measure a 21 on here. See, I have a short base that I can make as well. The short base is 16 and a quarter inches of length. And if I just don't quite have enough wood to do those long ones with the side compartment, I do the shorter one. The main compartment is the same size where the machine goes, but it just does not have the storage compartment on it. And that's where that extra, like almost 5 inches of wood comes from. All right, let me, that can be a face right there because that's pretty. So let me run this over and do another cut, and then we'll kind of figure out, once I get this face cut, I'm not quite done figuring out what wood we have to use on this. Getting lots of stacks of wood over here. All right. Right there. All right, there's a 21. Now, I also would need 3 end pieces, or 3 pieces, 8-inch pieces, or 8 and 1/8. This is actually long enough to get 2 of those out of. So I'm going to mark one piece on here for an 8 and an 1/8, and then cut the other one out. So I can get 2 out of this one. So that would be my good, that's a good yield on this one. That's almost the entire board. So that's the thing is when you buy rough cut lumber, it's not all the same size. It's not all the same length. It's different lengths and such. So when you get it back home, you got to try to figure out how much can I actually get out of this darn thing. All right. Just double checking. You know what they say. You know what they say. Measure it twice. That's what I'm doing. Measuring twice. I'm going to measure it again. 8 1/8. All right, we're good. All right. With this one. So this little piece right here is all I have left from that board. So that's what I mean by getting really good yield out of my wood. That worked out well. Now that's only 2. So I have, I've got 1 face and 2 sides. I still need one more side and 1 more long face. So I need a 21 and an 8. So I need basically 29 inches of board here. Let me check this one. Is 29, and whoa, I can probably just squeeze this out of here, I think. Let me make sure this is square. And it is. So this is square right here. So I'm going to cut my, I'm going to measure and cut the 21 on here. And then I'm going to mark it. I'm going to mark my 1/8 inch mark right here just so I can kind of get that measurement and check to make sure. Hopefully. Ooh, wow. Wow. Okay, I have to be really exact here because it's exactly 8 1/8 of an inch off the edge here. That's a lot. So what I can do is use this board, right? This is my matchup board right here. I'm gonna match these up, get them the exact length because this should be exactly 21 inches. And it is. So I'm going to use this board to match this up. Hopefully all of this lines up. And yeah, let's get that exactly the right spot. Right there. Okay. And let's go ahead and make another cut here. And hope this all works out. So I've got this on here. Should be exactly the right length. Okay, let's move this in place, measure. That's my cut mark. All right. Wow. Okay, The one board had a really good yield. This one had an awesome yield because this one was basically just a 1/16 of an inch by the time I cut it down. Woo. 1, 2, 3. So there we go. There's another large base right there. So there's another stack of wood that comes over here for the bases. Now I'm left with a couple of pieces here that are probably not going to yield out that much of a base. Because, like I said, this piece right here has so much, you can see my little scribble lines here. There's so much unusable wood right up to this point right here. It's just unusable. But it's unusable down here. It's usable up here. So I think what I can do is, let me look and see. I need 16¼ inches. So 16¼ puts me right here, ballpark. And then for after 16¼ I need 8 1/8. I think I can get an 8 oh yeah. So I can get another side yield out of here. So I can get a short and then a side, and then easily get another, this one I can get a short and side out of. That's easy. Okay. That's easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So that's what we're going to do to get yield out of this. So I'm going to take this one and measure it 16¼ I've got a line on here, but it's not exact. So let me get rid of that. And then I also want to make sure that this edge has been cut and is exactly square. And it is. Because that's the other thing, I'm making a box, so my edges need to be, I need to have a lot of 90-degree angles here, and that's why I'm really taking the time to try to figure this out. Oh, and actually this will work well because this is my jointed and flat side right here, which is nice to know. So now I will take this and measure 16¼ inches right here. And just to make sure, I'm going to go look at my diagram. You can't see my diagram, but trust me, I'm looking at my diagram right now. And 16¼ with no side compartment. So I keep it on the wall over on that side of the shop over there. It's over there. But I keep it there so that I can always reference it quickly, and I don't stick it in a drawer or anything. It's always just up on the wall because this is my main product. It's what I make most of. And that way, it's just a quick, easy reference for me. That's 16, one more time, 16¼ Now, 16¼ and I'll be able to get my 8-inch out of the thing here. So let me go ahead and start this cut, and then we'll do the follow-up cut for the one side that I'm going to take out of here. So get this flat on here. Put this on here so it doesn't fall down. Okay, that's significant. All right, now the next board I need to cut on here is an 8 1/8. The side panels are the exact same size, whether I'm making the short one or the long one with the compartment. So I'm going to measure this one as 8 1/8, and then make a line for that one. And then that will pretty much be the end of the use of this board for this purpose. Hang on, I got another line that I was kind of doing some preliminary stuff on here. All right, get this one marked. And then we will move to our last board to get the other 2 pieces. Now there's only 4 pieces as opposed to the other boards that have 5, because they have 3 side pieces and then 2 long pieces. This has 2 long pieces and 2 short pieces. Get this out of the way here. That appears to be good. All right. Okay, so this piece is kind of just scrap now. Now we're going to go and cut, let me see which side here. So I'm going to go and cut my short face and my last side out of this board right here. So I will use my face board already cut, excuse me, and get this lined up exactly with this one. Is that right? Where's this side? There we go. Okay. Board has a little bit of twist to it here. Good. That's good. Okay. Let's get this right spot. Okay, so we got some leftover board from this one. Not a little bit, but I can maybe make a compartment lid or something out of that. So here is a short one now, and right back, because I kind of, and then short. Oops. Short, and then, yeah, this is nicer. So front. Short, and that way I know that I've got a this is the short base basically. So we'll stack this over here. No, we just have, well, I've got how many more? Well, I've got 1, 2, 3 more bases to work on here. All right, 3 more. Woo, big head. Take these off for a second. Give my brain a rest. Now this is more of that figured maple, like that base I showed you earlier. So this has got a lot of flamey stuff in there. And what I want to do, I think I already did this, is identify the prettiest face, basically with the most flame. Now it's hard for you to see this. I'm going to see on the 4cam here, if you can see the flame in here. I don't know if you can see the flame in here. There's lots of good flame in this one. Here's the back of it. Maybe the back shows a little bit. Anyway, lots of good flame in this base right here. And I want to try to keep the most of it. Now there's a knot on this end of this board. But if I make this one of the, this is the back piece, you notice that knot isn't really apparent in this end. So kind of shows on this side, not really on this side. So if I had this side out and in the back, then life is good. So I already have an F and a B marked on here because I was assessing these earlier. Let me make sure this is square on this end. And it needs to be just, I need to just trim. Yeah, it's a little rough. So I'm going to just shave off an end right here first so that I can get a good measurement. I can't make the measurement off of this end right now because it's this end right here is still a little rough. And in order to get that proper measurement, I need to make sure this is a nice square cut right here. So we're just going to trim this off really fast. I don't have to shave a lot of wood off, just a tiny bit. All right. So now this has a very smooth edge now. So that's nice and smooth. I can bring it back over here and I can measure off that first 21. Now, I don't think I've ever done I've never done a full-size base with a side compartment in maple before. This will be interesting. This will be my first one in maple, well, especially flaming maple. I've made one in the past. I think I made one early on for my wife, but it was just a regular base. It didn't have the side compartment. It's still one of my favorites. It's upstairs in the bedroom, and it's one of my favorites that I did. It's really pretty. I'm just a sucker for flaming maple stuff. So, all right, I'm going to mark this one off here. And just for giggles, I want to look at how much extra I've got here. All right, so I'm going to have about 1/4 of an inch extra on the end here, which is good. Like I said, I like to minimize that waste. So 1/4 of an inch. And let me, you know what? Hang on. I'm going to flip this board over and measure that again. I want this to be down. I want this side to be down and this side to be against the fence because it's the side that was jointed and flattened and jointed. And that's going to give me my truest 90-degree measurement when I put it on the saw over there. So, accuracy count. All right, now we've got a good mark here. Now we can put this down. So, to go back here, this is the flat jointed edge or flat jointed face right here. I want that down. Okay, that flat jointed edge goes down. This is the jointed edge that is 90 degrees to that face. I want that against my fence. So that when I make a cut, I'm getting this is really nice and tight along both surfaces here, and that's going to be my most accurate cut that I can make. I mean, would it be off much if I did it the other way? Probably not, but let's be accurate. And I actually lost even more of that little knot. So there's just a little bit of that knot left over here. So that worked out really well. All right. So there is my face board, my back board. It's 21 inches. If it's not, I'm going to cry. And it is. All right, 21 inches. I just need my 8-inch boards now. Let me find my flat jointed face here. Should have a mark on it somewhere. There we go. This is my flat face, my flat edge, and I'm going to measure starting at this end down here and measure out my 8 1/8 inches. Now, in a second, same thing. This is rough, so I'm going to just go trim this off really quick so that we have a very smooth edge to this board. And this board is really long, so I'm going to actually end up having to move my joint just a little bit here to get that. There we go. So come here. There we go. And then I'm going to just kind of press it down here just to keep it from flipping. I want to keep it nice and flat against the cutting surface here. All right. Okay, now I have a very nice flat edge to measure off of. So let's go ahead and come over here, get our measure, and start measuring 8 1/8 inch right here. 8 1/8. And put this mark in here. All right, I've got my 8 1/8, and then I will just go ahead and cut all 3 of these as we're going. Is that the right side? Yep. Okay, let's go back over to the saw. All righty. So now we have all of the sides cut for the maple. These are going to be really pretty. Oh, hang on. Now we have all the sides cut for the maple. So there's another base right there. So get these all lined. I like to have them all lined up. It just looks so cool. They're all ready to go. And because they're all, like I said, they're all pretty much the same size. And I have, what do I have here so far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, so I'm going to get 8 out of here because this next one is really cool. Oh, this one right here is a piece of quarter sawn white oak. Now, quarter sawn white oak has really cool grain in there if it's a good piece of quarter sawn, because you'll get these things called medullary rays, which are running throughout the edge here. And what I want to do is identify the piece on here, definitely the piece on here that will be the face. which has the coolest looking grain. Now, the thing about this board is that I will get the entire, it's pretty long, so you can see it's pretty long. I will get the entire length, excuse me, of my sewing machine base out of this board. This is going to give me the entirety of my board. So I will get 2 faces and 3, I think I figured that out right. So 2 faces, let me measure that out. So from the end here, which I think that's square, it feels like it's already been cut. So from the end here, I'm going to need, let's see, 21, so 42, and there's going to be a curve cut, so 42 1/8. We're just roughing this right now. So 42 1/8 right there. And then from that mark, I'm going to need 20, basically 25 inches. Slightly less than that, but this is 25 1/4. That gives me all of my 3 cuts. So I'm getting all of them out of this one length of board. I actually have 2 of these that are this length. So I will be doing that. Now, this one looks pretty cool. I think I can get a face out of this side right here. I really wish you could see these medullary rays. I don't know how well they show up in frame. Let me look on 4. Let's see if you can see these medullary rays. You can see them up in this edge right here. They're really cool. And when I put stain on this thing, they just pop out. They're really awesome. They look great. This stuff's not the easiest to work with. It's not the hardest, but it's not the easiest either. All right, this is my flat side. I'm going to make measurements off of this end. So I'm going to measure out my 21 off of here. Let me make sure this end of this board is square really quick. It is not, or is it? I think it is. Hang on. It's close, but I think I need to shave just a tiny bit off. This is going to be a pain in the butt because it's such a long board. My working room over here is a little limited. I did end up with an extra piece of maple here too. So this has some really pretty grain in it too. That's really nice. All right, let's shave the end of this board off here. Like I said, it's going to be a little difficult because it is so long. Only taking a tiny, tiny, tiny slice off of here, but I don't want it to interfere with anything over on this end of my table. So I'm going to have to hold, excuse me, hold this down. I really need this to be pressed down on the table. Surface like that. There we go. All right. I wasn't happy with that first cut on here, but that is really good now. I know that it's cut and square. Let's go ahead and make 21-inch mark on here. And let's see, I need this. Make that again. 21. All right, let's get this first one cut, then we'll cut the second one right over here at the saw. And then we will measure for the 8-inch boards. Okay, so we've got these two cut for the faces. The one thing I do note on here is that this board right here, which is very pretty, it's a very pretty board, but it does have a knot in the edge right here. So whatever I do with this board, this edge, this knot is going to face down. I don't want that knot on the surface of this. So let's see which looks pretty. That's really pretty. I might make this my face. I think this is going to be the face. So we're going to put a big F on here. And then a lot of times what I'll do is I'll draw an arrow to show up, because that lets me know that this is the face and I want this to be the upside, and that will remind me that there's this little knot on there. And then this can be the back. And which way do I want the back to look? That's pretty. It's got a little defect right here. I mean, white oak is full of defects sometimes. It's not actually, this side is much prettier than the other side. I'm going to leave the little defect. It is the back, but that some of the defects add character, and so we're going to call that a character. Now, one way look better than the other? We're going to go this way. So yeah, I don't mind some small defects because it's just a matter of you know, the character of the wood. Like there's a knot right here. This knot will be facing on the inside of the base. It's not going to be on the outside, because it's a little bit much. And I might actually fill that knot depending on where it falls in the process. I might fill that with some epoxy or some like, I've got some black super glue that would fill that nicely. Oh, before we move, why don't we measure this? That would be good. I didn't measure this yet. So jumping a little ahead of the process, I would get over there and not have a mark to cut on. But let me get my mark here. And then, like I said, I'm just going to make sure, yeah, more than enough wood to do this. Alrighty, 8 1/8 inch. You all are going to be able to build these yourselves because you know exactly my dimensions now. Because I've said them enough times. 21 inches and then 8 1/8 on the sides. That's the way we roll. Those are the cuts we make. All right, right there. Okay, I didn't switch my camera angle. I'm sorry. I'm trying, man. All right, so you see this one right here has that knot in the back of it. And I'm not going to be, that will just go in the back and on the inside like that. And it might go, actually, where do I want that knot to be? Do I want that knot to be there? It can be going, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It's a knot. So here's another base right there. We have one more to do right here. And this is the same deal. This is the exact same thing where that board is, because basically those two oak boards, this was one oak board that was twice as wide. When I split it, this is my face. Whoa. So I'm going to measure from this face. This feels like I've already cut this off here. Let me get a measurement here and make sure that this is square. If it's not, and it is. So this is square. So we can already go ahead and use this edge right here. And now, face-wise, I got to figure out where the prettiest side of these boards are. This one is not as pretty as the other one. The other one just had a lot more stuff in it. Sometimes if I hold it up to the light to look at it and I change and move it around, that's actually not too bad. It's not, the reflecting, the medullary rays are not as pronounced in this one as it was in the other one. It's kind of nice over here. And it's nice over here. In the middle, not so much. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut, it's a little back-asswards, but I'm going to cut a 21 here, and then I'm going to cut my 8s, and I'm going to cut the 21 off of this end. It's not the way I normally do things, but I think to get the prettiest part of the grain, that's the way I'm going to go on this one. So like I said, it's not only about getting the amount of yield, it's about putting the best looking board forward. Now this one I also just noticed on the underside, and hang on, I'm going to show you here in a second. On the underside of this board is a little bit of chippy area right here. This will get trimmed down. It's not quite 3 inches wide. Well, it's close to 3 inches. I can go a little less than 3, but I'm going to cut a rabbet on the inside of this board. We'll get a rabbet. So a lot of this edge, and actually, I'm going to have to take this a little less than 3 inches. This is going to be a slightly thinner than 3-inch base. But I will also have a rabbet here, so I'm not really worried about a little chip out on the edge there. But let me get this cut. Let's go over here. I'm going to switch cameras. And I've got so much stuff over here. It's going to take me a year to clean up all this stuff. All right. Get that exactly where I want it. Put my lock in here. Lock this in. Moved. Moved. There we go. Right now I need to measure, I'm going to take the 8 and an 1/8 inch trio, the trio of boards out of the middle here that I use for 8 and 1/8 inch. So I'll measure my first one, and then I'll use that first cut as the measurement for the second and third, just like we've been doing. All right. Okie doke, on we go. Camera switcheroo. It's not easy being the guy in front and behind the cameras. It's a little more work. All right, get this one lined up right there. Lock this down. Okay. Alrighty, now we have all of our boards lined up over here, and they look awesome. So I think I'll show you this one. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bases right there. The only thing left in the actual dimension cutting is to do the width. So we're going to set that up over on the table saw over here, and we're going to start cutting these to width because, like I said, typically 3 inches is my width that I use on these. Some of these might be needing, like this last one, needs to be a little bit thinner than 3 inches, but 3 inches is pretty close to where it needs to be. I do have a little bit of leeway, so when I'm making these, if my board is just ends up being a little thinner than 3 inches, that's okay. I can live with that because, like I said, I do have a little bit of leeway that way. So I'm going to put the dust collection in. I have to move the power over to the saw because that's just how we roll. And then I'm going to set this up so we can do this over here. I have to move some things around because I don't want these things to get messed up. So I'm going to move my computer over here, and let me just make sure. There we go. So no comments. Wait, I do. Dennis Mecco from West Virginia. Dennis, how you doing, buddy? Thanks for stopping in. I know this is just super exciting. So I apologize for not getting your comment earlier. I just kind of get locked in here. So anyway, cool. Thanks for joining me, Dennis. All right, I've got a camera set up for the table saw, and we are going to just plow through these and get them going here. Excuse me. I will start on this end down here with the cherry boards, and these are all different heights. So what I'm looking at is basically a 3-inch width. I'm going to set that up right here, and let me grab my my measure real quick. Oh, and I need my remote for the saw, or for the stuff. So first thing I need to do, let's raise this blade up and get it above the surface here. That'll work. Now, what is my thinnest board here? And it's the middle one. I don't care about that one. These have plenty of room here. Take these down to 3, 3, 3. Yeah, all these are over 3. Yeah, so I can basically set this to 3 inches right here. And actually, well, that's pretty good. Pretty good. My fence is still pretty accurate. So set up my gripper. I've got the basically my jointed edge going in the jointed surface and the edge going down and over. That gives me my flattest, squarest surface right here. I do not like this like that. Hang on a second. It's kind of tippy. I like this better this way, but unfortunately 3 inches, if I do 3 inches, it cuts right into my gripper right here. Actually, you know what? Hang on a second. I do have another gripper that I can use that actually has a alternate fence on the side. It's a little bigger, but it has an alternate fence on the side that actually, so it basically has this little piece right here, which is a spacer, and that allows me to get away from the base. So what I'm going to do is just lower this down like this, and that will fit flat here. Because the whole point of this down here is it keeps it from tipping, and that is really smooth. Now I just moved my table. I didn't have it locked in. Did not have that handle locked down. Let me just double check here, and then we can just start cutting these. All right, let's just slice through all these, shall we? See what we can do. All right. Besides the storm of dust that I just created, you can see now that all of these, hopefully you can see, all of these are now the same height, except for this one right here. This is going to be in the middle. I knew this was going to be a little less wide because of the scrap piece I cut this out of, because I was trying to use up some scrap. But this is going to be the divider that goes between the storage cabinet or the storage space and the little side compartment, and or the main compartment and the side compartment. This is going to rest on top of the floor, so it's going to be about a 1/4 inch thinner. So it was okay that it was not all the way to 3 inches. I planned it that way, and I marked it with an M for middle, so that I know that that piece goes in the middle, and I won't confuse it with the other two and screw anything up. So that's why labeling my pieces really important. This one also has an M on there. I know this one's a middle, which means it's probably a hair less than 3 inches. Yeah, it's like a 1/16 under. So that's okay. We're going to leave it to the side. We'll do the rest of these. And these will all be 3. They should all be, yeah, all of these are over 3 inches by a significant amount, except for this one is actually 3 inches exactly. So this one should fit. This one is exactly 3 already. Actually just a hair under. I'm going to make it so that this is my guiding piece right here. So I'm going to make everything fit this board. It's just a hair under 3, but I'd rather have that. I think that'll work better. Here's my flat side right here. And get my gripper. And off we go. All right, once again, this middle one's slightly smaller than this one, but that's okay because it's going in the middle. That's why it's got an M on it. All right, the rest of these, now we can move on to the sapele ones. And like I said, I'm just trying to make sure that of all the boards I've got to cut down, that they are at least 3 inches, so that I'm going to move this back. That's still at 3. Because I want them to be at least 3 inches. Move this back just a smidge here. Too much. It always, like when I lock the arm down, it just kind of shifts just a hair. Whew. Probably not best for my phone there. Alrighty. Let me find my edge here. And that looks good. Let's get this one cut.
lower the pulsing down.
Okay, this one is a little shy of where it needs to be, so I need to find out what my measurement on this base is going to be here, because this is, I'm going to make this 2 7/8. It needs to be just a little slimmer. Like I said, I've got a little bit of room to give on these on the depth, so I'm going to give it there. I like to stay at 3 inches just because it keeps me consistent, but I do have a little bit of give, and this will just give me that little extra there. So, all right, last base. Let's get this one done. Oops, just a bit more. All right, no more than I wanted, but still good. All righty. Yeah, the last one was just a little thinner than I wanted, and it's just like a hair under 2 7/8. So it really, not the end of the world. Not exactly what I wanted, but not the end of the world. So I can, oh my goodness, pardon me, take those earphones off, and it's just like, whoa. Oh, Dennis had to leave for lunch. Well, thanks for stopping in, Dennis. I appreciate it. Yeah, it is almost lunchtime. It's almost 1 o'clock, and we can take a couple minutes to talk about what's going to happen next, and then I will probably not do the whole thing because the next step is actually CNC. So I won't do all of these CNC processes for you all because that would take hours added up. But what I do is two steps on the CNC for this next process. I've got these all cut up now, and I've got my 8 bases lined up and spaced up here. And what I will do, let me grab this one right here, it's cherry, and that way I can move this out of the way, is to, this is my middle piece. I've already identified that middle piece. So I need to identify, okay, these are my 2 end pieces right here. These 2 end pieces, where are the outsides? So which side looks prettier? I want to have that side out. And then which side looks prettier over here? These are actually really pretty pieces here. So I think this side is outside. So I'm going to just make an outside, like put an O, and then same with this one, put an O. Now, I know that these are my outside pieces, so they're going to sit like this. What those pieces need, that's why I kind of kept this around, what those pieces need is a handle in the side. So this handle right here, here's a little better view for you. That handle is actually cut on the CNC machine. So I cut a pocket. It's called a pocket. And what I do is, let's see if I can visualize this for you. So here's the outside piece with the bottom and an outside piece with the bottom. These 2 pieces will be joined together on the CNC machine, not joined, but they will be spaced together like this on the CNC machine, and I will lock them in place, right? So I will I will clamp them this way and clamp them this way so they stay nice and square to each other. And then what the CNC machine will do is, I was looking for a pencil. I have pencils everywhere and I can't find a pencil. Really? Really? There it is. It was hiding. So what I'm going to do with the CNC machine is I have a pattern already set out that will cut a pocket, basically going to be taking a space like this out and clearing a pocket out of this so that I lose wood in here. It goes down, I don't know, like how far down does that go? Because they're all about the same here, so I can measure it. So it goes down about 0.37 inches. And it will use, I use a 1/4 inch bit, and it routes this pocket. When you separate that pocket out, now I have what would be left as a handle over here and a handle over here. And then those get mounted to the outside of the base so that when you go to pick it up, you've got little finger gripping handles in the sides. I used to do those on my router table over here using a very scary 1/2 inch bit with double helix blades from hell. It was, it scared me basically, because the way I'd have to do it, I'd have to assemble the base and then try to like run my base on the router table like this and take little teeny cuts and everything, and I would maybe get chip out and everything else. When I started doing it on the CNC machine, oh my God, it changed my life. They're so clean, they're so easy. Once I get one set up, I just let it do its thing. I pop that out. It's basically, I don't have to remove all the clamps. I just remove like 2 clamps. I pop them out, slide the next ones in, put those 2 clamps back, and then we start all over again. So it just goes and goes and goes. That's one of the beauties of the CNC machine, is it's just a beautiful, repeatable cut that you can design and make, and it saves me. I mean, it takes a while to do one, but in the end, the frustration and the fear and the unsteadiness and the loss of wood because of chip out and everything else, man, this is such a better way. So pockets get done. That's the handle pockets get done. That's one of the first things I do. I have to do that before I actually put the base together because, yeah, I need the flat piece of wood. So, okay, so I do that. The other thing I do on the CNC machine, which I have to do before assembly, is, UPS. I have to do this before assembly, is I will do my Singer logo in the middle. I will determine, okay, well, how many of these do I want to have Singer logos, how many not? Typically, I will do 90% of them with logos because those are my best sellers. Those are the ones that sell first, are the ones with the logos. And since these are all typically for Singer machines, I do the Singer logo on there. It's the old-timey logo, which is no longer trademark enforced. It's important to know. It's no longer trademark enforced. So their trademark now is a big S for Singer or whatever. So I use the old logo, which is no longer licensed as a trademark. It's from back in the late 1850s, somewhere around there. And then I added some flourishes to the side. That's the Singer logo that I engrave on there. That takes a little while to carve. I will do that on one face. So I'll pick the one of these. It's going to be the face. Like if I'm like, oh, well, this is really pretty, I'll use this as the face. That logo will get carved in the face. I will do all of the logo carvings at one time as well because it's the same deal. I set that up so that I only have to remove 2 clamps, put the next one in, find the corner, and off we go. So it's like, why does everybody want to send me messages now? Really? 3 days later, you want to reply? It's people replying 3 days later to my messages. It's like, all right, I have no urgency to reply to your message now. But I do all of that CNC work, and while it's really cool and it looks great and everything else, it's not fun to watch necessarily. But I will set those up and do most of those. I may save a pocket for you all to watch on Friday for the handles. And then once we get the CNC work done, then it's a matter of going back to the table saw, and we will make the dado cuts on here. So a groove goes with the grain, a dado goes across the grain, whatever. It's actually more of a rabbet. It's not really a dado because it's not in the middle of the wood, it's on the edge. Although there is a dado that goes for the storage compartment. The way this thing fits together is basically you've got like this, and then there's one that goes in the edge like this for the storage compartment. So it looks kind of like this. I mean, give or take, it's kind of like that. That's the essence of what it will look like. I will do a dado cut right here, a 1/2 inch deep in this board wide, and on this side, a 1/2 inch deep in this board wide, so that fits in there. There's also a dado cut that goes right here, which is a 1/2 inch deep, and right to the edge here, and then a 1/2 inch deep into the edge here, so that these boards will actually fit into here in this space. So they will slide in and fit just like that. So yeah, that's pretty much the next processes that we will do. This one's a little easier for me to show you on the table saw because I can kind of, once I get set up, I can kind of start plowing through those and getting them done. Once I get all the joinery cuts done, the little rabbets and the dados cut, then it's basically glue up time. And that's kind of a fun, exciting thing to do. I have to figure out if I want to do a Singer logo on this maple one over here. Maybe not on the maple, because the maple doesn't get stained like other bases. Like this is as dark as I usually would go on a piece of maple, because this is a trace coat on here, so it adds a little bit of color, but it is not nearly as blonde. I do the trace coat to get the really cool flamey figure to show up. But I don't know that the Singer logo would really show up that well, or it might be too dark. And that's the other fear I have, is that it's too dark in terms of, you know, contrasting with the wood itself. I may leave that one plain, and I may do one plain cherry, and then do all the other ones will get logos on them. And that's probably, maybe I'll do one plain sapelli, because I have 3 sapellis. I've got a short one and 2 long ones. I may do a short one and a long one with the logos, and then leave one of the long ones without. But I am just thinking as I go here. I usually kind of figure that out along the way. Like I said, I like to have a good mix, because not everybody wants the logo on there, but most people do. So I try to accommodate the most people and then leave some options open for those who don't. Yeah, so, but if it doesn't get a logo, I try to make it like one with pretty wood, so that it is at least kind of decorative from a grain standpoint. And that way, you know, if I have to do one with and one without, I may use the plainer one in terms of grain. I may use the one that's slightly more plain looking and put the logo in there so it's decorative, and then use the one with the fancier grain without the logo so that it's decorative as well. So kind of like the crazy thoughts that go through my head as I do this. It's 1 o'clock. I think a couple hours, that's probably a good time frame. I do have some stuff to do this afternoon, and I need to probably push forward. I think I'll set up the CNC machine and start doing some pockets and some logos, and then I'll come back and do another one for you all, at least a pocket. I'll do that for you all on Friday. The logos take about a half an hour to carve. I use a V-carve bit, and they take about a half an hour. So those will not be something that I would leave just sitting there for you to watch, because it's really, all you're going to see is a machine going. You don't really get to see any of the close-up detail, because also I have a dust shroud that covers up the part that's being carved. So you really can't see anything. The pocket's kind of cool. It goes pretty quickly, and I think it's about 4 to 5 minutes for a pocket. And by the time it's done, you pull it out and it's just like, woo, it's so cool. So we may do a pocket. But Other than that, I think we'll go ahead and call this one episode 30, by the way. 30, nice round number. So that means 3 times 10 weeks I've been doing this. 2.5 months. And I've been consistent and haven't missed a single day. So that's pretty darn good. I'm pretty proud of myself. Yeah. So if you get a chance, 30 episodes, that's worth a like, don't you think? Subscribe, whatever, follow. I'm on Facebook at JR's Woodshop. I'm on YouTube at Jeff Revell, Jeffrevell, and I am on Twitch at JR's Woodshop. I would appreciate it if you all come back and visit me, because it's nice to not just be talking to myself. Have a great rest of your day. I will see you all back here on Friday. Take care of yourselves. Wear your mask. Get your shot. Do all those good things. Take care, everybody. See you soon.